this country and its problems are gargantuan. If all of us spend our whole lifetimes also, there will be still a lot of unfinished work. So there's no competition here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of collaboration required, a lot of evaluation required, a lot of specialization required. And I think the kind of specialization that some organizations should bring, and that's what Lok Satta is trying to do, that's what Janagraha is trying to do, is going to issues of governance. Janagraha's case, urban governance and citizen participation. Lok Satta's case, the whole political and legal and judicial and decentralization framework of governance at large in the country, at a macro level. And make it very specific and give professional skills. And also add mass mobilization techniques with the think tank function. I think we have to see each other as not competitors but as collaborators. Because we truly are. This country is too big for anybody to handle. The city is too big for anybody to handle. The issues are too big for any group to handle, or even a coalition to handle. And I think we must learn to be humble and transfer our knowledge and skills and strengths and bring these energies. Two things I would like to appeal. One is, in Mumbai now, for Maharashtra, the friends have started a Maharashtra Lok Satta chapter. As I said, not to step on the toes of others, but to create linkages and to add value to the efforts of the wonderful civil society activity going on in this city and in Western India. And I believe that Mumbai is where the future is for this country. And what we do in Mumbai determines in a very fundamental way not only the economy of India but the governance of India. Because Delhi is very complacent as a city. After all, it is a seat of power. The people in the seat of power don't have to change because they already exercise power. It is us and the rest of India, particularly Mumbai, the economic engine of India, that has to force this change and the pace of change and the direction of change. If we don't do that enough, then there will be always some incremental improvement here and there, but there will be no significant change that India deserves. And for that, what we are trying to do as Lok Satta is to try and add value to the efforts of everybody. And the address of Lok Satta, we have also acquired an office space in Baikula. And the address and other contact details we given, you can display it. I would appeal to all the civil society players in Mumbai to look at India, Maharashtra and India, as their constituency, because Mumbai has to look at India. Even the great Indian National Congress, as a precursor of the national movement, started in Mumbai, not as a Mumbai organization, but as a national organization. We have to think of the country, because if Bihar and UP die, India dies. A large chunk of the Mumbai's problems are linked to Bihar, for instance. The migration from Bihar to Mumbai, all this issue of regularization, legal, illegal slums, it's all linked to immigration. So as long as that is not addressed, you can't solve the problem in Mumbai alone, whatever cut-off date you have. That's only a small bit of the effort. But the bigger effort has to be in India. And in many ways, Mumbai is a reflection of these linkages, that you cannot be disconnected from the rest of India. And please look at India as a very practical issue. The second is, as I said, the heart of it ultimately is in the political process. As long as we are a democracy, and all of us want democracy to thrive, we are not really looking at efficiency as an independent outcome. We are looking at liberty and efficacy and effectiveness. These two have to go together. One is not at the cost of the other. And that means the democratic process must be more liberal, more representative, more legitimate. At the same time, more effective in delivering and getting outcomes. And that's what the political reform movement is about. And therefore a national campaign is now on the anvil to change the nature of the power game itself. Not merely looking at the technicalities of voter rolls, they are all required. The political campaign finance, actually already Lok Satta's efforts, other efforts, there's a very good political campaign finance law in place in the country. But that's not enough, we have to go much beyond that. Not merely criminals in politics, I already mentioned to you, the issue is much bigger than a criminal being there. It's like pain and swelling, but it's a deeper issue. But we have to go into the heart of the political system. Why is it that the good and decent and competent people who can and ought to represent the community, the citizenry, they are not into politics? What is it that is taking them out of politics? Why is it that none of us want our siblings and our children to ever think of politics as an option? And if the best in India cannot go into politics, the most complex of all tasks, then can we afford to leave politics to the people who come in through natural forces today? Because of family, because of money, because of mafia, because of caste, and because that is business. Is that the kind of politics that we want? Can we then get better outcomes in the country? And Can decent people survive in politics through means of integrity today? And can decent people, if they do survive, and there are some very, very competent and honest people in politics who are trying their best, but are they able to deliver? And if not, what are the institutional constraints? If we don't look at them, if we don't look at the political system, I'm afraid we'll always continue to underperform as a country. We'll have some improvements. And that's the reason why I believe we all should get together. And that's what Janadesh is about, this political campaign is about. Look at central excise. Look at customs. I have told often Dr. Manmohan Singh, when he was leader in that position, that if central excise and customs, indirect taxes in India, they are addressed properly and there is greater transparency, industry-friendly approach, then the revenues will go up dramatically. But more important, India's growth rate will probably go up by 1% on account of this one thing. Get the indirect tax regime proper. All the manufacturers and exporters and importers, and that means Mumbai is the heart of it, because 40% of India's economy, manufacturing economy, is centered around Mumbai. All of them have a stake in improving the indirect taxes regime. I'm giving you a practical example of this. Right now, in fact, Lok Satta Movement and the National Campaign, we're working with the Central Vigilance Commission and the Indirect Taxes, the Central Board of Indirect Taxes, to try and make it industry-friendly, transparent, simple, and yet revenue-enhancing or revenue-neutral. It is not at the cost of the government. Actually, it benefits the government further. And this is something in which we all have direct stakes as citizens and as entrepreneurs. And you ask any manufacturer in Mumbai, any exporter or importer in Mumbai, privately, off camera, they'll pour their heart out about the pain and suffering they endure on account of indirect tax regime. You ask any good official in indirect tax regime, and there are many, many good people and honest people in indirect tax regime, and they pour their heart out about their own incapacity to improve things despite their goodwill and intentions. So we all have to put our hands together. So this is not divorced from the reality of our work and our life and our livelihoods and our outcomes. There's no reason to always look at some grand picture. Everything is linked to everything else. Let's do this, other things will take care of themselves. So there's a lot for each of us to find space.